And we're live. Hello, everyone out there on the internet. Welcome to the Swift Kick Show. My name is Kevin Griffin, and I am joined today by the wonderful Sara Blevins. Sara, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Let's see. We're giving folks a minute or two to come into the room. When you're coming in, go to the chat on the right side of your screen and tell us where you're from. I love hearing where people are around the world, not just around the country, but around the world. We have Denise. She's saying, hey. Is Denise a friend of yours?
I think Denise may be from Twitter.
I have a lot of friends on Twitter who I've never met in real life. I know how that goes. Mr. Andy Leonard from Farmville, Virginia, was a guest on the show 2 weeks ago. So I'm happy to have Andy back.
Hi, Andy. Oh, there's my mom, Sharon. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Sharon. Hi, Sarah's mom. Well, let's see. Excellent. Yeah, we have a good group of people coming in. Now, Sara, remind me, you're in Knoxville, correct?
Yep, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Because you and I met at Codestock this year. I was doing a talk, and you were very energetic about my talk on social media. So I made it a point to come find you and meet you and chat with you for a bit. So I'm really happy that you're able to come on the show and chat with everyone. All right.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, when I saw your talk, I saw that you had a mastermind talk. I'm obsessed with learning from other people, and I just knew I had to go. So I decided to talk your head off.
Yeah, and it's not a problem. I have a philosophy: teach everything you know. So even if you don't, just keep talking about it, and eventually you'll figure it out.
I agree.
All right. Daniel from the Triangle, the Raleigh Triangle in North Carolina. Hello, Daniel. Let's see. Denise is from Mississippi. Oh, that horrible tropical storm going through. I just got back from a cruise on Monday, and we were flying out of Fort Lauderdale right as the tail of the tropical storm was crossing over South Florida. And thankfully, our flight did not get delayed. But it was very rainy outside. All righty. Well, we're going to kick things off with a little bit of Q&A. I've already warned Sara about how this works, but I don't give that luxury to any speaker, by the way. I just throw them the questions and let them figure it out. But Sara, take a moment and tell our listeners, our viewers, where they're consuming this, a little bit about yourself and who do you work for and what do you do here?
Sure. Okay, so I work for a company called Perfect Serve. We're a software company in the healthcare space, and I work in the finance department currently. They have been super supportive of me getting into the development space, so I love it. The culture's amazing. Great company, supportive, wonderful people. And I can't even say enough about how wonderful they have been helping me get into development.
That's awesome. I always love it when people say good things about their companies, because I meet so many folks in this industry that just go, yeah, I don't really like my job. I'm looking for a new job.
Actually, they were the ones that sent me to Codestock. So they were why I was there. It was amazing.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to talk about being a aspiring developer. And I know having met and kind of followed you on social media, you have this amazing story of just like learning to do all this really cool developer stuff. But for folks out there who have never had the opportunity to follow you on social media, you should. Tell us a little bit about your origin story. How did you get going down this road of software development?
Well, it's been a long road, much like many things in my life have been a very long road. So the long and short of the last year of my life has been that I saw that Udacity was offering a scholarship for developers. and I applied for it. And I went through the challenge course, and I was accepted to the front end program, which I will be graduating in, well, next month, now that I think about it. I ended up meeting some folks from Google and Moxie Pictures, and they did a, what do you call it, a web film on me, because they talked about my history, because I grew up income insecure and didn't really have access to technology, but I always had a passion for it. Mm-hmm. Same for STEM. I wasn't the girl who like grew up thinking about wedding dresses. I was like catching bugs and reading about things and wanting to be an astronaut. And, you know, I was obsessed with Nintendo and the VCR and those types of things. But so basically, my bachelor's is in technical communication. And so I learned to program in C#. I've had websites and blogs and did freelancing for a while, so I know WordPress. I took classes in HTML and CSS, but it was all very disjointed. I needed really a way to find a pathway into the career that I wanted. And that was difficult because there's so much to learn. How do you even, it felt like something that couldn't be accomplished. Yeah. But the scholarship and the support from Udacity and Google and my company, I finally am headed in that direction, and it's within reach.
That's amazing to hear. I'm so happy to hear that. Now, we talk so much about technology. I talk with nothing but technologists on a daily basis, but life isn't all about technology. Do you have any hobbies outside of tech and development and all this other good stuff?
I do. So I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I spend a lot of my time with my kids. We travel to museums. We travel to, most recently, my youngest son graduated from space camp in Huntsville, Alabama. So we do like a lot of that type of thing. Museums. We went to the Telescience Museum. We love Halloween, video games. We're very into video games, traveling, books. I guess, and I personally am very much into horror movies. I mean, to a degree where it's like absurd. And at work, they're so gracious. They let me dress all in black and just have it. And I take Halloween off. And so anybody that follows my social media, yeah, that's a thing. And I actually watched one of your guests talk about how into horror he was, and it was so cool. And I wish I remember his name. You know who I'm talking about?
Probably Chris DeMars.
He went on, and I bonded with him. He has no idea about it, but I bonded with him.
Well, I will connect you two on social because he was extremely into horror movies. So I asked him, I'll ask you, what's your favorite?
Oh, that's tough.
Sorry, pick one, maybe two.
Fine. In the Mouth of Madness, and Poltergeist.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Fantastic. I think I've only seen Poltergeist, so I don't think I've seen the other one. But I'll put that on my list. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put those on my list, and I'm going to connect you and Chris over your love of horror movies. So I will make that connection. Chris is good people. So
nice.
All righty. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll let you get going. So I know you're doing a lot with the Udacity scholarship, but tell us about your tech stack. Are you mostly front end or back end? Do you do a little bit of both? What are you working with right now?
Front end. And I mean, I may at some point do something else, but honestly, I'm such a creative person. I really love front end for the reason that it lets me be more creative. So I'm learning React, Angular. I've had to learn JavaScript, CSS, HTML, your basic front end stuff, more or less. Well,
awesome. So I think that describes a good number of people out there. So you're not alone in that journey. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short there. So you have plenty of time to talk to us about being an aspiring developer. So go ahead and take it over. Anyone out there in the chat room, if you have any questions at all, just write them in the chat, and I'll interrupt Sara where it's convenient for her to be interrupted. If not, we'll have a little bit of time at the end for a Q&A. So, Sarah, it's all yours.
Okay. And I'm sorry, my allergies are bothering me. I live in Tennessee.
I have the same problem.
Also, yeah, well, I want to give a shout out also to Joy. Joy works at my company, and she's like the Sarah Whisperer. Hi, Joy. I'm glad you're here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, Kevin.
All righty. All right, we got the mirror effect.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. There we go. We see PowerPoint. You're good to go.
Good to go. Excellent. Okay, so I'm an 80s baby. I don't even try to hide that. I embrace it. I'm so into it. I still dress like I'm from I'm in the movie The Craft in the 90s. Like I'm 80s, 90s. I'm into it. So this whole PowerPoint, be warned, that's what it's going to be like. So when I was trying to think about what to talk about, I try to think about all the people in the last year who have reached out to me and talked about that they want to be a developer, but they don't know where to start, and the problems that they've had, and the obstacles that they've tried to overcome, and how the big thing has been, how do you even start? I mean, there's like 7.5 billion people in the world. How do you find your voice? How do you make your imprint on the world? How do you find opportunities when it's hard enough to find a job, let alone opportunities in a field in something like technology? So that's mainly what I want to address is how do you find and maintain your confidence, communicate your perspective. I think people are in this world where there's so many people, I think people are looking for unique perspectives, people with a voice, people who are authentic. So how do you take that and in an authentic way, make that your personal brand and communicate that to the world and serve others with it? So I touched a little bit on on my journey. Basically, I'm a tech junkie. I'm a metalhead. Recently went to a concert in Georgia. That was all over my Instagram. I'm B-horror fanatic, aspiring web developer, write the docs. I'm so into documentation. Like, it's absurd. It caters to I think I might have ADD, but it caters to my need to organize. And I'm really into my kids. I spend a lot of time with my kids. They're my best friends. And going into this, what I want to let everyone know is that we can make opportunities for ourselves if we figure out how to present ourselves to the world. Before I knew that I could be a web developer, I reached out to Sara Maddox at Google, and this was several years ago. She probably doesn't even remember it, I'm sure, because she probably has so many people. But to me, she was a rock star, and she took the opportunity to look over some things that I was doing and tell me that I was going in the right direction. Same thing for Tom Johnson. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, if I get nervous, but he has a website that's about documentation. And I think I said something really dumb to him when he reached back out to me. But the point is that social media, personal branding, putting myself out there, there's a lot of rejection, but there's also been a lot of people who have been willing to mentor me or say an encouraging word. I had a tech writer from Atlassian reach out a couple of years ago and tell me that he thought I would be great in their master's program. I clearly can't do that because I need to stay here with my kids and keep them with their father. But just knowing that people, they were being receptive to my dreams and what I wanted to do, that is out there if you're willing to put yourself out there. So that's kind of what I want to talk to people about, that you can do that. Even if you don't know what you're doing, it's cool. I don't think any of us really know what we're doing. So I have learned some tips that can help you, though. So that's pretty much what I want to share today. Like I said, I'm an 80s baby. So when I think about personal branding, I kind of picture myself as He-Man or She-Ra. I just feel like I can be powerful. So basically, this is about how you can empower yourself and craft your own future. How do you gain confidence? How do you find it? How do you maintain it? How do you communicate your perspective? You have something to say, so say it. Your personal brand does matter. It matters. Yeah, we have resumes and yeah, we have networking, but if anyone knows Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about this. He talks about it's a great big world, and the barriers at this point, I mean, the world is becoming flatter. So you can take advantage of that, and you can get yourself to places that maybe 20 years ago were out of reach. So there's a lot going on in this slide. Why is this important? The tech industry, if you're paying attention, there's a lot going on right now. They're talking about gender issues. They're talking about businesses not being able to find tech workers. How do we train the next generation of tech workers? We need more tech workers. We need more tech workers who are from all over the globe. How do we get access to technology to people who maybe don't have it? How do we make sure that people are being represented as minorities or underrepresented persons or women or just anyone who has a perspective to bring to the table? It's not all about those things, but those are conversations that are being had. And so when you think about who you are and what you have to bring to the table, you have a perspective that no one else has. If you're willing to speak up, you can help solve some problems that are very serious. I don't pretend to know where these things come from or how they crop up or all the answers, but what I do know is the more voices we have at the table helping to solve these problems and other problems that we're moving into the future, the better. So just think about that as you think about your personal brand. Who are you and what can you bring to the table to serve other people? Not about becoming a rock star, because working all the time is not that glamorous. But if your overarching goal is to help others solve problems, then you're going to be fine. So that being said, I know that everyone that I've talked to in the last year, this is basically a lot of where they spend their time as an aspiring developer, a new developer, someone who doesn't have contacts, or they live in the wrong place, or they're tired, or they don't know how they're going to pay for school. There's barriers to entry. There's imposter syndrome. There's not feeling good enough. There's people in your life who, unfortunately, maybe aren't as supportive as you would like. Or maybe you don't have a lot of resources. Or maybe you just get tired. I wish there was a job where I could just sleep. That would be awesome. Anyone who works with me can attest to you that most of the time I walk around like a zombie, and that's just pretty much my state. I'm tired. And so that's a very real thing. But hey, that's life, right? So I think when you think about moving into tech, or this is really applicable anywhere in life, you have to think about what's going to keep you going, and you have to think about, if you're going to be authentic, you have to figure out some things about yourself. You have to have serious talk with yourself. What is your overall goal? I get asked the question frequently, what do you want? Because I'm all over the place. I'm in finance. I like to write documentation. I'm learning web development. I write fiction. I do a lot of stuff. And I understand the question, but then again, people have to understand that I've come to the understanding that my goal in life is to experience as many things as possible. That's what excites me. Change is my thing. I love it. I love having new experiences. I love tackling new problems. So to other people, what looks like I'm just bouncing all over the place like a ping pong ball, I must have that in my head from listening to it at work. But to other people, what looks like I'm just bouncing around aimlessly, to me, is me living life as fully as possible, experiencing as many things as I can, because for me, that is my goal. You have to think about, what does success look like for you? So for some people, that's, as much money as they can make, or maybe they can travel all the time, or maybe they have a lot of friends, or I don't know, maybe they develop the next Facebook or Google. I don't know. You have to define that for yourself. Personally, for me, success looks like what is happening for me right now. I have autonomy. I have freedom of choice. I get to meet cool people like Kevin. I get to send my kid to space camp. I joke around with someone at work about about being famous or whatever, but I'm just joking. I'm a minimalist. I don't really have much in my apartment. I like to be able to go places with my kids and experience things. What are you willing to sacrifice? So I get real frustrated when I see videos online that say things like, yeah, you can earn 6 figures and with our coding boot camp. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I mean, stranger things have happened, right? But I think that glamorizes what is a very difficult process. I don't have much of a social life. I accept that. That's fine because I'm reaching my overall goal. I'm succeeding for what looks like for me what success is. But when I don't have my kids, when they're with their dad, there are a lot of times I sit in this chair and I program for 12, 13 hours a day. I've decided that's what I'm willing to sacrifice. And if you don't have that talk with yourself, then you're probably not going to be able to push through when things get really, really difficult. And they will. This is not glamorous. There have been a lot of times I've sat in this chair and cried while I was typing, but I pushed on. And that brings me to my next point is, how long are you willing to commit? I'll touch on this later in the presentation, but the typical overnight success takes at least 10 years. Think about this when you think about let's say you find a company that you love and you want to stay there. It takes time to make an impact in your organization because you have to build the relationship, build the understanding, figure out where you serve best. It's no different when you're wanting to go into programming, development, personal branding. It takes time. I started building my personal brand in early 2014, and I'll have wins and gains, but it's this gradual thing, and I've committed to the long haul because the way I see life is every day is. There's no easy day. There's no time that comes. I'm sure Jeff Bezos doesn't sit around and go, okay, X happened and now I'm done. Now I have reached it. There will never be another fire to put out. That's just not how life works. So you have to figure out what you're willing to commit, how long you're willing to commit, and stick it out. And go ahead.
Hey,
sorry.
Have you been changing your slides? Because all I am seeing is your Find Your Voice slide. Is that?
Yeah, I have been. Is it not going with it?
I don't know if anyone else is noticing this, but the slide has not changed for me at all.
Still not work. Hold on just a second. Let me get out of this and make sure I didn't stop sharing my screen.
So chat, if you're out there, tell me if you're seeing something differently than I am. It could definitely be just a Kevin problem. You never know.
Do you see the slides now, even if it didn't change?
All right. Yes, you're on your Find Your Voice slide.
Okay. Well, then what I can do is minimize this and just go to where I was.
That works. Will you press hide on the Webinar Jam thing at the bottom?
Absolutely.
There we go. All right. I think that will work great. That way, yeah, just minimize any faux pas.
I think.
Okay. Yeah, chat's agreeing with me. They saw just the one slide. So I didn't want you to get all the way through your presentation, and we have only seen that one slide.
Sure. Well, I'll just briefly go through them and then move on.
Yep. All right. Who the heck is Sarah? That's why we all see now. I think you're good to go.
After I rambled. Okay.
No, you're fine.
All right. Excellent. So I'll just run just real quickly so you can see these. Obviously, this is when I was talking about finding your confidence, communicating your brand, some of the resources that you can find online if you search for businesses looking to fill their tech talent gaps, job training, minorities, those types of things. Some of the feedback that I've gotten from people in terms of moving into being a developer or programmer. Of course, who doesn't remember this? So this is a slide that I was on, basically. So the next point is find your broader purpose. I have identified my broader purposes as being a representative for specifically people who didn't come from a tech background and women in technology. And also, which may seem a bit unrelated, but it's not to me, my broader purpose is to provide opportunities for my kids that I never had. My kid now knows astronauts. What? I mean, so when I sit in the chair for 12, 13 hours, that's what's in the back of my head. I have a broader purpose. And then probably the biggest thing is you have to ask yourself, are you willing to be able to accept personal responsibility for your future? Because you can do all these awesome things, but nobody's going to give you anything. And sometimes that is a hard pill to swallow. And especially when you're trying to become a developer and you feel like, okay, I have the skill. Why is nobody noticing? You have to be willing to look at yourself and say, do I really though? How much further do I need to push? How much better do I need to get? There's always going to be somebody better than you. Be ready to work. You may have to work your face off, but if you want it hard and bad enough, you can do it. So I wanted to talk about barriers to entry, and I think that depends on how you answered some of those other questions, because for me, I don't really fantasize about just getting a developer job and sitting with my headphones in and using my skills that way. I mean, sure, that's important, but for me, I'm excited to be able to build my my fiction website from the ground up. I'm excited to be able to serve other people in creative ways. So the barriers to entry depend on where you're coming from. So if you don't have any experience, there's ways to tackle that, which I'll talk about later. You may have no contacts. Neither did I a few years ago. Maybe you're in the wrong geographical location. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I mean, we're not exactly known for our tech scene. Your age, your gender, your own misconceptions and ideas. These can all be barriers to entry. And then let's throw on top of it that software is complex and it's constantly changing. And I'm reading that the frameworks that I'm learning are already having other frameworks come in and challenge them. So mentally prepare yourself for those and figure out ways around them. I don't see obstacles as walls. I see them as maybe a labyrinth that's guiding me. So sure, barriers to entry are there, but they're not insurmountable. And a lot of it has to do with how you think about it. This one's real. This one is real. So I won't torture you with the video, but basically you can find this video on YouTube. I watch this like maybe 5 or 6 times a day. Talks about how Maya Angelou suffered from imposter syndrome. Einstein, I mean, if it hadn't been for him, we wouldn't have split the atom. I'll write a piece of code and put it up on GitHub and think, oh, somebody's going to look at that and go, you didn't do that. This is serious. And I've especially talked to a lot of women for whatever reason. I don't know. And we're adverse to risk. And I clearly am not a guy or anything else, but it breaks my heart because I hear them talk about not being able to do it. And it's painful. It's painful, and this is real, but I think part of this is our self-talk. We have to get through this. So find someone you can talk to, take ownership. Self-doubt is awful, but sometimes self-doubt can also indicate where you need to grow. So you have to be willing to feel that discomfort and acknowledge that you might have a place where you need to grow and grow into it. So this is very real, but just like the other thing, it is not insurmountable. I think you have to find your tribe, and I don't think that has to be huge. I have a few key people in my life who I consider my tribe. Also, for Udacity, there's a Slack channel I lurk a lot. I don't say much. I'm a lurker. I tend to be a listener, not a talker. But those are my people. I go in there and I watch what they're saying and I pay attention to them and I listen. They're my tribe. So whether you're changing careers, trying to move to the next level, or you've decided to follow your own path, there are people doing those same things. There are people that have done those same things. Find them in whatever way is comfortable for you, relate to them, and use their strength and the lessons they've learned as your own. So there's some points under each of these. Like changing careers, you can take classes, you can do coaching, you can find mentors. There are even people in my life who I consider mentors. They probably have no clue, but I watch them and I watch what they do, and their actions guide me because I look up to them. So this doesn't have to be a thing where you go have coffee. Sometimes life doesn't permit that, but you can still adopt that person as your mentor. Find people you admire. If you're trying to move to the next level, there's certifications. You can do side projects. You can have a creative outlet. I'm published, and the way the publishing house found me was my fiction online. And then that parlayed into me becoming an editor for them. So you just never know. Don't always think about it in terms of the money. Put yourself out there and then pull from the resources and the opportunities that come your way because of that. If you're following your own path, I think right now social media and the internet is everything for that. If you don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, you maybe have been living under a rock because he talks about this all the time. So I'll stop harping on Gary, but I love the man. So don't rely on a straight line. Don't wait for permission. I am obsessed with Sylvester Stallone, and he talks about how when he wrote Rocky, how he had to come to a place where he realized he couldn't wait for permission. He had to come to a place where he had to realize that no one needed to validate him for him to deserve to move forward with his dreams. So find other people who are forging their own paths and follow them. Look up to them. Use what they've been through. School lessons don't have to come from school. Most often they don't. So that brings me to the resources. There's so much stuff right now that is open source. If I hadn't gotten this scholarship from Udacity and Google, I had already planned out a pathway for me to get the equivalent of a bachelor's in computer science using MOOCs, which are massive open online courses, I think is what that stands for. But basically, the internet, the resources is there. They're there if you are ready to commit to use them. Non-traditional education, I hear people talk about not being able to pay for loans and things like that. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But their non-traditional education, there's this site, Allison, that I learned how to read binary because I took classes on it, and it's absolutely free. And like companies like Google and Apple and all kinds of other companies, they are dropping the requirement that you have a traditional degree to work there. They have gaps that they need to fill, and not everyone's path is the same. So some of those barriers are in our mind, and we have to get over that. Social media, I know people, I respect this. This is fine, but I think it's a limitation that we put on ourselves. I know people that are vehemently against social media. I think that maybe it's how you use it, like any other tool. It's the new town square. I mean, come on. I don't watch TV. I don't even turn my TV on. I haven't in years. But at night when I lay down to read the news, I read it on Twitter. And our president tweets all day long, and that's where a lot of his news come from. I don't think anybody's really sitting around watching C-SPAN and things like that. I think things are changing, and we should realize that the resource that we have available to us that is really powerful right now is our ability to get our voice out on social media. So basically, I also hear people talking about, I'm tired. I don't know where to start. I'm just overwhelmed. I get that too. I do. That's why a lot of times on my Instagram, my whiteboard, it's my thing. It's where I just vomit all my ideas. And I'll post those pictures up and my goals change, but I just throw it all up there, and I don't necessarily know where I'm going from one week to the next, but I'll put it there. I'll figure out what's a priority. And then I'll go from there and I'll move on. We have all these things pulling our attention away from what we want to do and where we want to go. I get that. But we have to prioritize, and we have to basically break those down into smaller, manageable steps. It's very much like writing an algorithm. Break it down into something you can manage. So this gets me to the part that really excites me, which is the personal brand. I don't look like it right now, although, yeah, I stutter and I get really excited, but I'm a shy person. In real life, if you know me, you would think that I probably don't talk a lot or that I don't have a lot to say. I'm an introvert. It's so finding my voice and my personal brand has been incredibly difficult. And sometimes when I put things up on social media, I sort of have a panic attack because I'm thinking people are going to want to talk to me and people are going to know about me. But I also know that it's important for my long-term strategy, and it's important for my long-term goals. And it's important if I want to give back to my community and to other people who want to do the types of things that I am trying to do. It's important for me to move outside that comfort zone and figure out who I am. And for instance, at work, what I try to do is be that person that if I'm given a task, I don't care if it's, hey, go wipe the counter. I want to be where the buck stops. You know, I want that to be my brand at work, is they know they can count on me. And so when you put that out into the world as a larger thing, I guess, you want people to think of your name and think of the things you're doing. And if that can fulfill a need that they have, you have just hit the jackpot. So to me, I think about your personal brand as your global resume. I think it's a fact. I think I'm not really one to say things like sort of what one of these slides says is nobody's going to want to work with you. But I think it's important to have that and to see it and to see the perspective. I don't know. Maybe it's true that I tend to be too nuanced in my thinking to really think like that. But what I do think is that personal branding doesn't just benefit you. It isn't just about you. It's about what can you bring to your organization? What can you bring to your community? What overarching goal can you work toward really for our global community? And I think that if more organizations realize the power of their employees' personal brand, they could also leverage that. I mean, the stats are right there. And I think that the days for paying on all, just blasting things out there, people are over that. People are wise to it. They don't want to pay attention to it. But when you tell stories, when you make that connection with other people, that's a personal brand. That's organizations plus employees plus communities working together toward mutual goals. And I think when you are thinking about your personal brand, that's what you have to think about. I don't think anyone's going to go on any of my social media and be surprised by anything that they see or that I say it loud or that I'm trying to. I think it's pretty obvious that I have certain goals that I'm trying to reach toward. At least I hope so. And if not, I'll do better to refine that. So I think when you're thinking about your personal brand, you need to really focus on authenticity. And that goes back to knowing who you are. You're not going to appeal to everyone. Get over it. People won't like you. They won't like what you have to say. There are people that wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. I get it. Cool. I'm not upset. We just have different goals. But you have to figure that out and accept that you are not going to have a mass appeal. You're trying to solve specific problems for specific people in a certain way. So you have to commit to your authentic voice, and it won't work if you don't know who you are. And it's this delicate balance of blending who you are and your own values with the work that you want to do, because they are so intertwined. We spend just as much time, if not more, working than we do in our personal lives. Those things, they have to commingle. The technology has made that a fact of life. So be brave, share yourself with the world, stick with your message, realize that it is a long game. It's never going to go away. I don't ever see technology, either internet or the internet, going away. I mean, we have all these apocalyptic visions, but I don't know. So did we 30 years ago, 60 years ago. There's no such thing as quick and lasting. And you have to take small wins as you get them and let that propel you forward, because I don't know when you're going to get this moment, like I talked about earlier, where everything just, there's the clouds part and there's never any problems and you've made it. I don't think that's realistic. If it's such a thing, I've never seen it. Do a few things well. So I struggle with this sometimes, knowing what to focus on. And I think that's fair. And I think that's okay. And I try to be very transparent about it. Sometimes you'll see me go off on a tangent, and I feel like that's okay, because I'm trying to figure out how I can best serve with the skills that I'm learning. But I think at the heart of that, know your demographics, pick your platforms, don't play. People see through you. They're going to see through you. For instance, mostly for me, I do Instagram and Twitter. I'm not really good at videos, obviously. I'm much better when I can just curate a picture or a GIF or something, or just since writing is my communication of choice, I'm much better at it. Speaking, not so much, but I'm working on that. So those are important. Maybe you're a person who's great at videos. Maybe you're like the next PewDiePie, who, by the way, I love PewDiePie. That's an aside. Okay. As you go along, refine, be flexible. As you get good, adopt and refine your message. Right now, I'm just learning broad abilities in terms of front-end web development. I don't know how that's going to shape up or where I'll necessarily find my specific niche, and that's okay. I just know that I need to be flexible so that when I do, I can move into it and learn to sit in that area as hopefully maybe some sort of an influencer or a subject matter expert or a go-to person. So you have to be willing to at some point commit to something. Watch for your opportunities. There will probably be opportunities that come your way that aren't right for you. You have to choose that based on your authentic voice and your goals. Your community, they're your friends. Don't spam them with, I hate impersonal DMs. I hate when people are just like, buy this face cream, or I don't know. I don't do all that to people on my social media. I try to offer them an authentic person who has something to say. Sometimes I fail, but I try. Now, that being said, know when to act. For instance, when Twitter, okay, Udacity, their marketing department found me and reached out to me based on some tweets that I had made. I knew that was an opportunity that was right for me because it was in the direction that I wanted to go. But, there's going to be a lot of things you have to let go and realize they're not for you, and they won't be authentic if you try to do something with them. So you can't have your hands in everything. And realize that mutual goals are way, way more important than just yourself. And that's why you won't see too many selfies of me online. I guess I feel like I have to put pictures of myself up sometimes so people know I'm real. But in general, I don't know, how many times can you see my face? You know what it looks like. I try to make sure that I'm putting out more of a message than just, oh, look at me with my face today. I don't get that. So no offense, but I just don't think that's in line with where I'm going. So Evan Carmichael, I'm obsessed with Evan Carmichael. He has this thing. He does 10 rules for success, and he gets people who have succeeded. I mean, we're talking politicians, actors. It doesn't matter. People from every walk of life. And they talk about the attitudes and the perspectives that they've had to adopt to find their version of success. And he's so uplifting and he's so authentic and genuine. I listen to him. Sometimes I listen to his videos. I'm not kidding you guys, for like 8 hours a day. It's absurd. But I've learned that I have a lot of mental hurdles that I have to overcome. So I have to do this to get myself in the headspace to do what I want to do. And this whole thing about success being this very quick, easy thing that's going to happen to you, I suppose so. But in general, I think it's a whole lot of little things and a whole lot of small steps over a long period of time, and dedication and commitment and authenticity. I think that when you have pieces working in tandem, your skill sets, your soft skills, your hard skills, your personal branding, pushing outside your comfort zone, I think all those things come together to make success, from everything that I've ever seen. And I spend a lot of time studying successful people. So that's about all I have to say. Of course, I gotta push my social medias. I'm on GitHub. My repositories are a wreck right now, but hey, I've been flying at full speed since January, so I'll get it cleaned up. Instagram, Twitter, SaraBlevins.com is where I publish my fiction. I warn y'all, it's dark. I'm goth. Sorry. I'm on LinkedIn. And then the portfolio is just something I recently put up. It's super bare, but I'm proud of it because I wouldn't have been able to do it 6 months ago. So thank you, Kevin.
Awesome. That was so awesome. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today.
Thanks, Kevin.
I got so much background noise now. There's a session let out in the building I'm in. So we'll wrap this up quickly. All right, chat. Anyone have any questions for Sara before we wrap up? I really appreciate your message of don't put out on social media just to have your face visible. Make sure that the stuff you're putting out there is relevant, and I like to use the term moves everything forward. As long as you just keep pushing stuff forward, people react really well to that. So if you like I said before, teach everything you know. If you just keep doing that and just keep putting out just filled information, people respond really well to that. It takes, like you said, it takes a lot of time, but just we need more people doing that. Then we don't have enough people doing that.
Well, it's like those Instagram accounts that you see and they have like 30,000 followers, but they have 4 posts. Seriously, quit. No, that's not authentic.
Yep. Well, alrighty. The chat is pretty quiet, so we'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Again, thank you so much, Sara, for hanging out with us. And everyone who's joined us, you'll see an email from me in a week or two about our next show. We would love to have you come join us. And with that, Sara, thank you again so much.
Kevin, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm so grateful we met. You're so cool.
Oh, thank you. Now I'm blushing. I'm just very happy to be able to give you an opportunity to come talk about what you're passionate about. That's my whole theory, is let people talk about the things that they have passion for, and they'll amaze you. So excellent. All righty. Well, thank you, Sara. Thank you, everyone out there. And we're going to stop it right here.
Thank you.